time. We're going to do a flow for our hips this morning. And as you know, yin yoga always works hips and low back. But when we concentrate on the hips, we make sure that we get all the ranges of motion. So sitting cross-legged, outer rotation. If we bring our knees together in shoelace, for example, then we're adducting. If we do dragonfly, open the legs, pulling on the inside lines, and we're abducting. We've got inner rotation to do if we do saddle. And what am I missing? Oh, flexion. So anytime we do a forward bend, compress in the front of the hip and pull in the back. And then back bending, we'll pull in the front of your hips. So all 6 ranges of motion will take your hips through. Let's start in that sage's pose, sitting on your knees. And of course, if that doesn't work, remember, modify. Sit on a block, if you like, between your feet. That'll take pressure off your knees. Or put a quilt rolled up behind your knees. That can help take some of the pressure off. If it's the ankles, you can roll the quilt, make a little padding under the tops of your feet, and that'll just kind of put it by your ankles and let the feet hang down a little bit. That'll take some of the pressure off the ankles. And of course, if none of those things work, then just sit cross-legged, no problem. I'm going to start off with that 3-part breath, Taoist 3-part breath again. So just a nice way to open the lungs. And then we'll go into our meditation, centering after that. So just taking a moment though to settle in and onto your mat. And let go of today, things that need to be done, items on that to-do list. Let go of the worries and anxieties just for this next hour. Feel the earth beneath you. Feel that energy there. Feel yourself grounded to the earth, connected. Pull that energy up from the earth. But at the same time, as you feel that lifting up, that intake, that pull upwards, you're also feeling that rooting downwards. Take your mind to the sky above you. Feel how just taking your mind there is uplifting. Feel that energy that does uplift and vitalize you. And at the same time, pull that energy down into your body. See if you can connect it with that rooting energy. And so once again, you've got that uplifting, but drawing down. Listen to your breath. Notice how focusing on it right away seems to slow it down and calm you down. Breathing in and out through your nose. Maybe using a count to help keep your mind inside your body. Or saying a little mantra, that little phrase, breathing in, breathing out. Or even just in, out. Thinking about your lungs, expanding and contracting, sending them gratitude for being healthy, for all that they do, all day, all night, giving us sustenance, feeding every cell. Just a couple more breaths. And then slowly open your eyes, and we'll do that 3-part breath. Guess I did this backwards, didn't I? But it felt right to do it that way around. So we start off with our hands by our sides. Lift your hands up as you inhale. Bit of a back bend here, looking up, hands behind the head, and then push apart. Stiff fingers. Inhale, bit of a back bend here. Bring your hands to your shoulders, look up, and then push out, round the back, chin to the chest. Exhale. Turn your palms up. Inhale, once again, a little bit of a back bend, and then bow to the earth, exhaling. And again, inhale, arms come up. Exhale, push out. Inhale, fingers come to the shoulders, look up. Exhale, chin to the chest, round the back, push out. Inhale, bit of a back bend. Lift the arms up, look up, and then bow down as you exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, arms up, behind the head. Exhale, push out, stiff, jerky movement. Inhale, back bend, looking up. Fingers to the shoulders there. Exhale, round the back, push out, chin to the chest. Inhale, arms come up, back bend. Exhale, bow to the earth. Last time. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, push out. Inhale, lift, back bend. Exhale, come to the earth. Just stay in child's pose for a few more breaths. And while you're here, think of your intention that brought you here this morning to your mat. What's your purpose for doing yoga this morning? And then slowly on an inhale, slowly uncurl back up. Bring your head up last. Exhale. Swing your legs to one side. And we'll start off with a butterfly pose. It's where we bring our foot soles together. Let your knees flare out to the side. Don't have your feet in too close. You want to have them further away from our body. I'm actually going to swivel sideways here so I get padding under the ankles. Not nice on the hard floor for your ankle bones, so make sure you're doing the same. Knees flare open to the side, so we have this nice diamond shape here. Blocks can be very handy here. You can use them to rest under your thigh. My phone going. You can put a block inside that diamond shape if you like, and rest your forearms on it as you lean forward. That's totally fine as well. So take an inhale, and then on the exhale, start to lean forward. Allow your low back to round if it's okay, But if not, if there's any disc issues where forward bending is not a good idea, then keep your tummy pulled in and just lean from the hips. Don't let your back round at all. You can let your arms still relax. Up to you whether you let your head go or whether you just keep your head in line. Doesn't matter. And if you don't get to that block, that's fine. If you just have your arms resting on it so they can relax. It's quite interesting how often when you relax your arms, the legs follow. So feel free to do that. But if you like to just have your arms resting and they kind of act as an extra weight, gravity pulling on them. Maybe some of you use the block for your forehead. Maybe it feels better to rest it on the feet. Maybe you move it down a little lower. Remember, you're not pulling. You're just draping, just relaxing. Steady breathing in and out. Remember, yin has just the 3 principles, 3 tattvas. First one is coming to an edge, a place of comfortable discomfort, which is an oxymoron, and how can that be? But you just come into a place where you kind of think, oh, you feel like you want to groan, and you notice tugging and pulling in sensations, not pain. If it's painful, then you back off. Come to that place where it's manageable, and you can breathe like you were breathing in the beginning. And then once we're there at that edge, we become still, physically and internally. So we're allowing our muscles to soften, relax, so that we can get to these deeper tissues. Some of them are on the surface of the body, but they go right down to the cell level. We found fascia at the cell level. And these threads and fibers of white stuff running through our muscles. That's the stuff that we're targeting, films of fascia that encase organs and muscles. And with these still static holds that we do for minutes, and that's the 3rd tattva or principle, is time, holding for minutes. So with those kinds of lengthy holds, studies have shown that you can lengthen your fascia, your connective tissues. Not much, 4 to 10% is all that they will give. On your next inhale, slowly, if your head is dangling, let it come last, coming back up, and then just sitting there quietly. Some people like to sit, maybe you want to lean back on your hands, release the hips, stay there. Maybe you are needing some motion through your legs, so plant your foot soles and do some windshield wipers if you like. A little of all 3, or pick whichever one seems right for you. And then straighten those legs, give them a little bounce. We're going to come over onto our backs, our tummies now. So this next one is going to be a pull into the front of the hips. So our back bending, this actually is good for any disc issues. So we'll come to Sphinx Pose. If coming up onto your elbows like this, if it's a little too much, then just lay your ribs back down and put your hands under your shoulder heads. Have your elbows sticking up like little grasshopper legs like that, and then stay here. This is baby cobra, so that's a perfectly good pose to stay in or go to at any point. So for a Sphinx pose, you want to have your elbows under your shoulders so you have this nice strong bone there supporting you. But where you put your hands, there's lots of options where they naturally want to go. So you might find that coming in closer feels better for you. You feel like you have more stability. You might find that having them further apart seems better for you, or parallel works. So any one of those positions, if you like to put your palms together in prayer, that works too. That's totally fine. Or clasp opposite elbows. If you always do Sphinx one way, you always clasp your elbows, maybe this morning push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. Yin does that. Although we relax our muscles, we certainly do not become relaxed enough that we go to sleep. So we're always in this, putting ourselves in a little bit of discomfort. Sometimes, often it's the physical discomfort that's manageable and keeping our breath calm, but it's sometimes these little habits that we get into that it's good to change, let go of some things once in a while, right? So here's a perfect example where you can do this. Relax your bum and relax your legs. If that puts too much pressure on the low back, then you can use those butt and leg muscles a little bit to take the pressure off. Tops of the feet are relaxing on your mat. If that starts to put a cramp through an arch, though, feel free to tuck your toes under, not a problem. If you like, you can lift the legs up and have the feet floating up in the air. Again, just using as little muscle motion, movement, effort as you can. Leaving those legs there. If that puts too much of a back bend in, then leave the legs flat. And your head, totally new to me after 7 years of having taught yin and stayed in touch with things, that now they're saying just let your head do whatever it wants. If you want to let it hang, if you want to look down, if you want to keep it looking in front of you, that's fine too. For these last 45 seconds, if you want to add a little bit of neck and neck bend to this, if it's okay. Remember, tucking that chin lengthens the back of the neck and then lift up. This also stimulates the thyroid. If you don't feel like doing that today, then don't. Breathing, that's the important thing. In and out. Feeling the front of your hips here. Notice the sensation there. Often we concentrate on the back. Notice how there is a tug, especially when you put your feet up into the air. Right away you'll notice that. Now take a nice deep inhale and come all the way down on the exhale. Let your legs float down if they were up. Make a nice pillow for your head to rest on. Whatever way you're facing, drag that same leg up alongside you on your mat, being still. Puffing your low back out with your breath can help to release it. And if it's motion that you crave and you know you need to do those windshield wipers, then do that, or just stay still here. Then when you're ready, no rush, move your leg down, let them float on down if they were up in the air for windshield wipers. And we're going to push up onto all fours. And we're coming into saddle pose, so we're sitting in that sage's pose that we were sitting in at the beginning. So again, all the things that I said there apply here. You can sit on a block, you can sit on 2 blocks if you need to. And this is giving your hips an internal rotation, and so for some people it's quite intense, and it depends a lot on the orientation of your pelvis to your femur, the sockets there as well. So, and it also depends on knee health and hip health, so easy does it. All right, so you're sitting there. The other thing you can do, remember, is roll it up with a quilt, put it behind your knees as well. You can sit on your heels if you like, or you can sit between them. Because it's hips, if you can sit between your feet, then, or your heels, then that gives your hips that inner rotation. So it's good to do that for today if you can. So let's get this timer going. Now, if this still isn't working, you can do one leg at a time. So start with your right leg bent and leave your left leg straight. That's totally fine. Sit on a block there as well and just work one hip at a time. I'll give us the halfway point. For those of you that are doing 2 legs bent, then just ignore when I say, for those of you with one leg, you can start to come out. So if you're fine to just sit where you are, then sit and concentrate on that inner rotation of the hip and strong pull through the quad there. That lots of fascia there. Each muscle of the quadricep has those fibers going through it. Each one of the 4 muscles is encased in connective tissue, and then the whole fascial bag around that quad is getting a nice tug as well. But so there is that pull happening. There's pressure in the ankle probably, or ankles if you've got both bent. Same thing if both are bent and you want to start lying back, leaning back, then do that. Come down onto your elbows maybe. Keep your head looking forward, or let your head go backwards and dangle. Maybe you go all the way down. Try to keep that back bend there. It can be really nice if you've got a block handy and you're not sitting on it, to put it behind your shoulder blades. Feels really nice, that lift through the chest. Let your arms come out to the sides. Maybe you like them out in a T. Feel that lovely open pull through the chest and ribs. Maybe you like them overhead, clasping a wrist. Gives you a nice, lovely tug through the back of the arms, triceps area into the armpits, and through the front of the body, those tissues there, the ribs getting in that lovely arcing feeling. And we're at the 2-minute mark, so if you're doing one leg, then switch here. If you've got both legs bent, then stay where you are. Easing back again, or not. Maybe there's plenty going and staying sitting is enough for you this morning. Intensity is not as important as length of hold in yin. Breathing. Trying to relax your legs as much as you can. The more you can soften, the deeper the tugging will go. Relax your jaw. Let your tongue rest behind the front teeth, the back of the teeth, loosely in the mouth. Check your shoulders. So often we hold onto various areas that we don't even realize. Our hips are the largest joint in our body. So the ligaments there are very thick and strong. So these sensations are intense. And because of our lifestyle in the West, where we sit on chairs, we don't live on the floor. We don't take our hips through their much needed full 6 degrees of rotation and movement. So we tend to have very tight hips in the West. Hip replacements are off the chart here compared to the East. Now to come out on an inhale, leave your head back there or bring it up. Apparently is okay. If it's okay for your neck to put a little strain on it, make it work a little bit. Don't use those muscles. Keep coming forward. Tuck your one leg in if you did one leg at a time, and come to all fours and just stay still on all fours. Feeling the rebound of that pose, the echo of it. I love that phrase of Bernie's. Makes sense. But I also love that spearmint feeling is such a good description of how it feels to come out as well. Cool and warm at the same time, kind of buzzing. Do some cat-cows here at your own pace, tucking your tailbone, drop the belly, look up, spread the sit bones, tuck again, drop the head, look for your belly button. Just going slowly, matching one breath to one movement. And after you've done 3 or 4, and with a flat back, and either cross at the ankles and come to it, roll over them, come into a seated position, or swing your legs to one side and come to a seated position. This one you might want to swivel sideways for, so you have nice padding under your heels. Open your legs as far apart as they will go, so you're feeling a nice little tugging along the inner lines of the legs. And yes, we're going to go over to the right first. So one thing before we do that, make sure, I just did it automatically, but make sure you're sitting on a little cushion or a rolled up quilt, just with the sit bones, so you feel that slight lift but a tilt forward, almost like you're rocking off it. That really helps pelvises to tip a little bit further, a little bit forward. So inhale, come over to the right leg, and on the exhale, start to lean over it. Remember, you can put your hands beneath the knee. You don't have to have your legs straight. You can put a really good bend in that leg. If the back of the leg is bothering you today, you can rest a block underneath there. Check over with that left quad. Make sure that it's soft and relaxed. It doesn't have to do anything. And again here, we're not pulling. We just twist, so there's a bit of a twist happening in your back here, and then we lean, and you find that that's compressing the front of that hip joint. Pulling in the left. Along the inner leg, you might feel some nice tugging there, nice compression in the front of the right hip, but you'll also find the back of the hip, right in the center of your butt cheek, where the hamstring insertion area kind of is. That's why it's important not to pull, just to get to that tugging, and you get a lovely hamstring stretch in this as well. Again, leave your head where it naturally wants to go. Maybe you want to let it dangle. Maybe you keep it in line. Maybe you can find a spot a little bit harder to rest on your shin and rest your head on the block. Let your arms be heavy. Breathe in. Breathe out. Think about your intention maybe while we're breathing here. Kind of nice to revisit it. Really noticing the different sensations in your hip joints here, the compression in the right, the tug in the left. Now inhale your way back up to the center. Exhale. Inhale over the left leg, and same thing. If you're using a block under that right knee, leave it or put it underneath the left one. Again, check with that right quad. It tends to engage as we lean over the left. Feel the difference, and you might notice that you weren't as far forward when you first lean over this leg as you were at the end of the just 2 minutes over on the right side. And that's such a magical part of yin, how the body, as long as you're not pulling and you're just staying steady at that static hold, but then you notice how that initial tugging of the edge dissipates, and then you can sink a little further, let gravity have you. And notice the type of sensation again in each hip, how there's a tugging in the right one and there's compression in the left one. Maybe you're not feeling too much of that compression. Maybe it's all in the back of the hip for you. That tightness there you can feel being tugged upon. Well, that's good. That means that you're targeting your ligaments and the connective tissues back there. Maybe you can feel this in the groin more than you can in the front or the back of the hip. And just know that that's where the tightness is that you need to work on. Where you're feeling it, you're doing it. Just a couple more breaths. And then slowly coming back up to the center. Exhale when you get to the center. And then we'll go right down the center. If you do that naturally, feel like you want to move your legs a little further apart because you've lost some of that sensation, then do that. Inhale, and then leaning forward. Now remember, this may be your lean, and that's plenty. Maybe the legs don't want to be straight. And they're like this with a good bend in them. And then you really can concentrate on that compression and tugging in the front of the hip joint, the compression and the tugging through the groin. So stay there. If that feels better, that you can go a little further forward and increase the sensation in the hip joints with your legs more bent, do that. Maybe you move the heels out a little bit. You can keep a slight bend, or you can just totally relax them wherever they go. And for lots of people, this is the forward bend because they've got tight hamstrings, and maybe because of the orientation of the sockets in their pelvis, it's bone on bone compression, and you can't do anything about that. So except be here and think lengthening your hamstrings, you're compressing in the front of your hip, you're probably feeling some tug in the back. If you're a person that goes all the way down, then you can use the block to rest your forehead on if you like. Maybe move your arms out to the sides, and it feels nice across the shoulders to do that. Or maybe you prefer to make a resting place for your forehead with your hands or one side of your head. I'll tell you the halfway mark so you can switch sides. Or maybe you just have your head on the floor and your arms go out to the sides, but whatever gives you that tugging sensation. That's what it's about. And that you can breathe, steady breathing in, out. In this particular one here, we're getting the liver meridian as well, so you might sometimes find with these longer spread-legged holds that you have feelings of irritation or annoyance crop up. It could mean that there's just maybe a blockage deep along this energy highway that just needs a little bit of massaging, if you will. You might find that you just have such joy in these tugs through the groin and the inner lines of the legs. Just don't get too involved with your emotion. You're at the halfway mark now. You can switch over a little past that. If you had your head on one side, that was the halfway. That was the point to turn it. Just another breath or two. And then on your next inhale, you're going to slowly come back up. always important to come out slowly. You feel a little fragile, a little broken almost, and then staying still. Enjoy. That's the part that, as Bernie says, we tend to get addicted to in yin, is that coming out feeling. And then whatever you would want to do, that was about 8 minutes altogether with our legs apart. So they might want to have some help here. Bring them in. Maybe you just want to lean back. Maybe you want to arch your back. Maybe you want to do windshield wipers. Maybe you feel you need to bring them together and straighten, bounce. Just doing whatever organic type of feeling release you need. If you're doing windshield wipers, it's going slowly, thinking about the inner knee and the outer knee coming towards your mat. Again, there's that inner and outer rotation happening. And then take your time when you're ready. No rush. Bring your legs back together. Come over onto all fours. And we're on our knees here, so some people find that they need a little bit extra padding, especially if you've got a thin mat. Mine's pretty thick. So bring your little quilt crisscross across your mat so your knees have a nice padding here. Make sure that I'm going to be on the camera. All right, too bad we can't do the portrait view with Instagram Live, but I'm sure they're working on it. So where your right hand is, we're going to put our right foot there, okay? Help it forward if you need to. This is another one where you kind of want your knee over top of your ankle, have that nice strong shin bone there to support you, and then try to get your hands to the floor on either side of that foot. Use blocks under your hand, that's not a problem. And then tuck your left toes back and move that left leg back just till you feel that, feels like I'm doing splits, and that's perfect. But remember, make it a manageable discomfort. So, and you might think, oh yeah, dragons, manageable just isn't in the ballpark, but you don't want to make it too intense. So don't have your leg back as far. That's one way you can lessen the intensity. Use your leg muscles a little bit to take some of the pressure off, because this one works so deeply. Dragon pose into the hip socket. You've got a really strong compression happening in your right hip socket, the front of it. You can probably feel a little bit of a pull in the butt cheek as well, in the back. And the left hip is getting a strong tug through the front of it. Nice extension here. Maybe you can even feel a little bit of a wrapping sensation into the groin. Now from here, bring your right hand inside. Flap your right leg up and down 2, maybe 3 times, and on the third flap, just let it rock out like that. So this is winged dragon. You can stay on your hands. You can bring the block inside here and rest on your forearms. That can be quite nice, so you can totally relax. And notice how we haven't really changed. Maybe it's intensified the left hip joint. But now we've got this lovely outer rotation happening in the right hip joint. Rocking onto the side edge of your foot. Breathing. Some of you may find you can get down to the floor. Stack your fists, maybe rest your head on it if you like. Maybe everything relaxes more when you do that. Or just leave your head where it naturally wants to be. Totally up to you. Almost done. Last breath in. Out. And then coming back up, set your foot down. Tuck your back toes under and push your hips up and send them back. Bring your right hand outside so you're nice and stable. Maybe rock up onto that right heel for half splits. This is called. Lovely release through both hip joints. Should feel fabulous. Dragons are very difficult, but they sure feel nice to come out of. And then pull that leg back down. Set your knees down, tuck both toes under, and push up into down dog. Should feel quite nice to do a down dog after that. Send the heels down. Stay still for a breath or two. And then maybe walking the dog, lifting one heel at a time. Come high onto all your toes. Give them a good bend. So good for our toes. Send your heels down. And then set your knees down. And we'll go into the other side. So where your left hand is, put your left foot there. Again, make sure your joints are nice and stacked. That knee's right over that ankle. And use your block on the left side if you need for that extra little bit of length for your arms there. Never matters where your arms are because it's got nothing to do with the arms. So you want to be supported by them. Tuck your right toes under, move that right leg back, and then set the top of the foot down. Make sure that leg is nice and straight behind you. You might want to check. And then whether you're on your flat hands or you can be on fists too, you can alternate the hand position if that one is just a little too intense for the minute that we're here. Just remember that when you do switch hand positions, then your muscles of your legs will kick in to help balance you. So try to relax them when you come back and when you get stable again. You could be on fingertips too. It's a good finger strengthening for that as well. But don't overdo it. If it bothers your finger joints too much, then stay in your flat hands or your fists. This is another one where it's not so important where the head is. You can look in front of you as I was originally taught, that about 1 meter, but if it feels better to let your head look down, then do that. It's your neck. You're the boss of your neck. Now inhale, bring your left hand inside, and again we'll flap that left leg up and down 2-3 times, and on the third flap, let it rest on the outer rotation, and then this is where you either stay here, if you like, or maybe bring the block inside and come down a little bit lower, resting onto the block can be quite nice. Or maybe you come onto your mat, just wherever you're the most comfortable in this lovely dragon pose. It's not a favorite of most people, myself included, but it sure is a favorite coming out, and the work that it does for our hips is worth the agony. I mean, the time, the little bit of intensity that we're in it. Almost done. Inhale now, set that foot down as you come up. Tuck those toes under, push your hips up and back, and set your left hand on the outside of that left leg so you're nice and stable. Rock up onto that heel. I love one of Bernie's little jokes. He has funny, hilarious groaners, but oh my God, is the common saying after dragon. Bring your left leg back down, stay still for just a breath or two so you can enjoy that spearmint feeling rebound of the pose. Tuck your toes under and push up into downward facing dog again. Just being still again for a couple of breaths. And when you feel it's time to move, then walking the dog again. Send those heels down one at a time. Come on to all 10 toes again. Give them a good bend. Maybe even curl them as you bend. Send those heels down for the hamstrings. And then set your knees down and sink back to child's pose. This for a little regrouping. And then slowly come onto your backs. So you'll come out of child's pose and work your way over onto your back. We'll do just one more pose for compression in the front of the hips. You can make it a little bit of an exercise if you like by using your core to bring your legs up into the air. Bend the knees if you like. Open those legs so there's space there between them, and then bend your knees and reach up for whatever you can grab onto. Might be the back of your thighs, might be the calves, maybe it's the ankles. And your knees stay wide, so don't keep them in like this. The knees are wide. They're coming on either side of your ribs. Think about that one day they would come down to the floor, next lifetime maybe. Some of you might like to reach up to the outside edge, or he had us doing inside edges as well. So whatever hand position feels okay for you, then you can do that. Think that your feet are standing on the ceiling, so they're flexed. This is called happy baby pose. And if you've spent any time around babies, you know that they play with their toes all the time and have their knees no problem down on the floor beside them. So it's in we were babies once, so it's in our body. But for now, put a little pressure with your biceps, letting your tailbone curl up off the mat, or if that bothers your low back, then keep the tailbone flat. You won't have your head or your feet as far over, but that's okay. Protect that back. And then stop pulling here. Maybe rocking a little bit from side to side, massaging. Should feel so nice on the back. This is another one that feels wonderful to come out of, but just for fun at the end, see if you can curl up and touch your toes to your nose, or give them a kiss, touch them to your forehead, do it in your mind's eye. And then let those legs drop on down slowly to your mat and let them be. That's another intense one to love coming out of. And either stay still, or maybe you feel you need windshield wipers there. And then bring your arms out into a T. We're going to stack our left knee on top of the right. See if you can hook the calf for twisted roots or not. If that bothers the knee, then don't do it. Scoot your right hip under a little bit and let those knees drop over to the right. Try to keep both shoulders in contact with the mat. With them in twisted roots, we're getting another good adduction here, as well as the weight of them tends to pull our left shoulder right up off the mat. So today it is more about the hips, but still we want to try to keep that open chest. So if you want, put a block under them so that you can stay a little more open in the chest and still get a nice strong tug. But if that takes too much of the tug away, then let it go. Take the block away. Turn your head, if it's okay for your neck, and look to the outstretched left hand. Steady breathing. Know that you're releasing tension that might have built up in your spine over the last, not quite hour. Twists will do that, and that's why we naturally find ourselves twisting throughout our day. It's just innate. We feel that, something released and relaxed in our back when we do that, and that's why. Now inhale your knees back up to the center. Undo those legs. Plant your feet, push into them so you realign your spine. And then we'll cross the other way. So right on top of left, hook the calf or not. Bring the block over to this side. scoot the hip under a little bit. Let that knee come to rest on the block. Open your chest. Turn your head if it's okay for your head. And look now to the outstretched right hand. Think about your right ear coming onto your mat. That'll bring the twist into your neck if it's okay. If it bothers you to do that, then don't. Twists also work on your nervous system level, or at the nervous system level, helping to restore the equilibrium there. We're always trying to remain calm, breathing steadily, even when we have these intense poses. And part of us wants to get out of them. So there's a little bit of havoc created there. So twisting helps to just reset everything, give us that feeling. As well as the wonders it does for our spine. Now on an inhale, bring your legs back to the center. Undo them. Plant those feet. Push into them. Lift your hips off your mat, realigning your spine. Set your hips back down. And then maybe slip on a hoodie if you like. Grab a blanket or a quilt to cover up with. If you like, you can always, if you've got a couple of blankets or if you're plenty warm, roll up that quilt and put it under your knees and then lie back. Leave some space between your legs, space between your arms and your torso. Tuck your chin in a little bit to lengthen the back of the neck. Take in a deep breath. Let it go with a sigh. One more time. Deep breath in. Let it go. Let your breath be now, whatever it wants to be. Sink into your mat, just like you're lying in warm sand. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. Fill your body with a warm, healing light of relaxation from your toes to your scalp. Feel yourself heavy, warm, glowing with this healing light of relaxation. Float away or stay within. But whatever you do choose, take rest. Just for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And I'll be with you for the relaxation this time, since we have time. Let your body absorb the benefits of this practice now in Shavasana. back to your room. Hear the sounds around you. Feel the air on your skin. Just gently bringing yourself back, wiggling fingers and toes, making circles with those wrists and ankles, turning your head from side to side. And then sweep your arms over your head for a full body stretch. And then those arms come down, the legs glide in, turn over to your left side and pause there for just a moment. This will open your right or yang nostril, energizing you. As you pause here on your left side, take time to notice how you're feeling. Notice the quality of your mind. Know that this is your true nature and you can come back to this feeling anytime. Push into your mat with your right hand and help yourself back up to a cross-legged seat. Hands come together in prayer at your heart, eyes closed. May you be free from fear and harm. May you be content as you are. May you be at peace with what comes. May you be happy. The light that is within me honors the light that is within each one of you. Bow forward now, sealing your practice. Namaste. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. It's lovely to feel the global connection. All right. Bye.